We are down to the last chapter, chapter 10, security. And as you probably know, this is just a huge topic because it has become such a problem for businesses and governments and consumers. So there's several different aspects to it. We talk about physical security, we talk about policies, we talk about protecting your data. And so let's get started. Well, first of all, it's expensive to protect data, so you can't protect all of it. So you have to determine which of your data is most important to protect. And if your business, it's usually customer data and credit card information and so on. If you're a high-tech business, you want to protect your patents and your secret processes and your code and all that kind of stuff. So you have to determine that. And then, of course, once you've determined that, then hackers are going to try to get your most valuable data. And so if they do get in, there's a high probability because they know it's valuable, and the impact if they do get in is high. So you devote a lot of resources to that. If there's a high probability but a low impact, you do your best to contain it with, firewalls and policies and so on, but probably wouldn't expend a lot of money. Low probability, low impact, you ignore it, and then if there's a low probability, then you might just want to have a backup plan. So, okay, let's keep going here. Okay, so how bad is this problem? Well, it's pretty bad. Let's look at a couple of pieces of information here. Let's start with, this is actually a little bit dated, but it's still a good video to kind of start with.
Analysts estimate that this year 4.9 billion devices are connected to the internet. They're all accessing data that needs to be encrypted, and it's mission critical that we protect this environment.
It's not whether a breach will occur, it's when it will occur and how well you're prepared for it and how you can mitigate damages. These hackers and adversaries that are out there, they are creating new threats that are attacking enterprises all over the world.
So at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, we've really shifted our focus to identify the modern threats. We look at the interactions between users, applications, and data, which means on-premise, in the cloud, mobile, being able to correlate and analyze those interactions so that even the most modern threats we can find.
We have the ability to monitor the security operations for thousands of customers worldwide.
Our Cybersecurity Defense Center at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise is one of the largest in the world. It monitors literally billions of potential security events a year. It also allows us to test and harden new technologies before we bring them to our customers and make sure that they scale and perform. We need to protect not only against adversaries, but also against natural disasters and other potential outages. So our suite of backup and recovery and business resilience solutions from HPE are critical.
Protecting the digital enterprise is also protecting the brand and the company themselves.
A company's most critical assets are their users and their data, and we're going to help you protect that data regardless of where it sits, at rest, in motion, or in use.
Okay, so that's sort of a nice introduction to the problem. Okay, now here is a good report on how much it costs businesses.
Results are in, and I've got some solid cybersecurity numbers you might want to take a look at before you make your next move. I'm Scott Schober, and this is Cybersecurity Ventures Quarterly Report. If you follow the cyber breaches like I do, you know that they're not only growing in frequency, but in size too. Back in late 2013, Target retail stores were compromised to the tune of 40 million customers. They settled for $39 million with the banks, who were forced to pay out on customers who lost money in that hack. But that was only the beginning of massive breaches. Sony, Office of Personnel Management, IRS, LinkedIn, LastPass, Experian, Anthem, to name just a few. And of course, the mother of all breaches, Yahoo, with 500 million accounts compromised, followed by 1 billion more accounts in a separate hack. According to Cybersecurity Ventures, Global spending on cybersecurity products and services for defending against cybercrime is projected to exceed 1 trillion cumulatively over the next 5 years, from 2017 to 2021. Now, if 1 trillion doesn't sound like much to you, consider this. Cybersecurity Ventures also predicts global annual cybercrime costs will grow from 3 trillion in 2015 to 6 trillion annually by 2021, which includes damage and destruction of data, stolen money, lost productivity, theft of intellectual property, theft of personal and financial data, embezzlement, fraud, post-attack disruption to normal course of business, forensic investigation, restoration, and deletion of hacked data and systems, and reputational harm. But it's not all bad news. In what is actually seen as a shortage, the demand for cybersecurity workforce is expected to rise to 6 million globally by 2019, but with a projected shortfall of 1.5 million. All of these new jobs will be needed to protect 100 billion human passwords and 200 billion machine passwords. That's a total of 300 billion passwords by 2020. Keep checking in with Cybersecurity Ventures for the latest reports.
Okay, I thought it was a pretty good introduction to the severity of the problem. Okay, let's look at a few trends here.
The cloud, the Internet of Things, and artificial intelligence are all fantastic technology. They help our businesses and increase our quality of life. But they also increase IT complexity and pose new security challenges. Before I dive into this year's security predictions, let me also cover 4 major trends in network security: authentication, evolving threats, nation-state hackers, and the increased target. One of the foremost tenets to security is trust. When you put something online, you decide who you trust to connect to you and your data. This trust is entirely based on authentication. However, over the years, we've seen countless data breaches that have leaked billions of passwords or credentials. The primary mechanism we use to identify who we trust on the internet, passwords, seem to be breaking down. So how do you trust on the internet if you can't rely on authentication? Meanwhile, attackers have not been stagnant. As new technologies emerge, attackers evolve their threats to be more effective. As the cloud, IoT, and AI become more prevalent, attackers adjust their tactics and release more evasive malware or launch new attacks that exploit previously hidden vulnerabilities. Over the years, the security industry is primarily focused on cyber criminals. However, the current geopolitical environment has changed that. We now see nation-states participating in cyber attacks. They're putting their most sophisticated engineers to the task of exploiting other countries or even big businesses. This changes the overall cybersecurity ecosystem and creates more sophisticated and dangerous threats for everyone. Finally, the scope of target has increased. Attackers don't only target big businesses. There's a common misconception among small and medium businesses that because you don't have huge amounts of intellectual property, you won't get attacked. But that is a fallacy. SMBs have data hackers can steal. They have resources attackers want. In today's threat landscape, everyone is a target.
Okay, I think you're starting to get the picture now. All right, let me go back to the PowerPoint and and continue with that. I'm not going to show this one on ransomware, but ransomware has been, actually it was more last year, but it is continuing, where hackers will basically take control of data. They were targeting hospitals a lot for some reason, where they hijacked the patient data and then they would demand ransoms to release it. And it was an interesting strategy. Surprisingly, you know, when you read the articles on it, they were only asking for like $25,000. I mean, as opposed to millions of dollars, and the hospitals paid it. So anyway, okay, let's see here. We talked about all that. Oh, you know, one thing that's been in the news lately is the whole issue of the Russians hacking and what people knew and so on, and then with the recent firing of Comey, this is kind of an interesting retrospective about what he was just talking about, nation state
evidence that Russia tried
terrorism.
to hack other entities associated with the 2016 presidential campaign in addition to the DNC or Clinton campaign operatives?
Yes, many others.
Can you specify those others? Did that include the RNC? Did that include any of the other campaigns of candidates in the primaries, either Democrats or Republicans?
I think what we can say in an unclassified setting is what we have in the report, that there were efforts to penetrate organizations associated with the Republican Party, and that, I think that's what we said in the report, and that there were not releases of material hacked from any Republican-associated organizations.
But the hacking, the use of cyber tools as part of their broader, whether you call it hybrid warfare or information warfare campaigns, it was done to both parties.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Anyway, I thought that was just kind of interesting, given what's been going on. And hacking is absolutely huge. The Chinese try to hack into our government and our businesses. We try to hack into theirs. The Russians. I mean, it's going on all the time. It's just a huge problem. Let's see. While we're on the topic of trends, here's a couple more trends. What that one gentleman said 2 videos ago, just because you're a small business doesn't mean you're not going to get hacked. In fact, small and medium-sized businesses are easy targets because they don't have the sophisticated security software. Okay, hybrid attacks. Let's see. So we're going to talk about. There's you probably all know you're never supposed to click on links and emails that are suspicious, because that will allow a virus to get into your computer. That's a very easy way for hackers to deliver the malware, but also something called DDoS, denial of service attack, where hackers will do that, but they'll do the email viruses. They'll do these denial of service attacks where they basically send out viruses to infect thousands, hundreds of thousands of computers and turn them into zombie computers, and then at a certain point they simultaneously release requests to a specific server. Let's say Amazon. So if an Amazon web server gets inundated with millions of requests at one time, it gets overloaded and can essentially shut it down and kind of allow malware to get in through the back door. So that's a very common attack. Okay, companies are buying insurance. That makes sense. And the good news is that they're saying that organizations, especially the large ones and governments anyway, are starting to take it more seriously. So that is good news. Okay, I wanted to also show you this. This was kind of interesting. This was from June 8th, so it's fairly recent. Okay, let's see. Remember in that one of the earlier videos a minute ago, when I think they said the target hack, was it 40,000 or 400,000 customer records were compromised? So if about $400 per record, that starts adding up pretty much. Let's see. Oh, that's for healthcare. Okay. Finance, the records cost $624. Let's see. I don't see retail here, but anyway, a lot of devices are infected. As much as 3% of all mobile devices are infected. And when people download apps all the time, and so you don't think about what you're downloading, and there's a lot of potential for malware and getting infected. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. Most common cause of a data breach. So if the company has to hire an attorney, wow, $700 per hour, we're all in the wrong business. IT forensics at $475 per hour, average of 55 hours, that's a lot of money. A PR firm like Target, when they had to reassure customers that they could trust them again, $20,000. Notification and call centers, a little bit. Credit card and ID theft monitoring, $1150. Regulatory defense, $20,000 to $1.7 million. Payment card industry, investigations, about $388,000. Okay, credit card reissuance. So anyway, it's just interesting to see that it's nothing to be taken lightly. It's really, really huge. This is an old one. I just wanted to show you because it's just a good example of what happens.
POS systems are hot targets for hackers. Just one of those devices could provide access to databases containing thousands of debit and credit card numbers. Hi, and welcome to the Certus Network's video blog. Omni Hotels and Resorts recently published a notice of a data breach stating that its on-site POS systems fell victim to malware. Engineered to collect debit and credit card data, the malware affected 48 of the hotel chain's 60 locations, according to CIO. This attack resembles the Target breach from a few years ago, proving that businesses haven't learned from others' mistakes. To prevent malicious actors from moving laterally through infrastructure, as was likely the case for Omni Hotels, enterprises must cryptographically segment their POS assets with Certus Network's CryptoFlow platform. This solution uses CryptoFlow's virtual overlays that leverage encryption to isolate POS systems from other applications.
Okay, we don't need to get into those details, but again, it was just another example. All right, let's go back. All right, we actually talked about trends already, but we talked about nation state. We talked about, with the advent of big data, there's increases the potential for big data to be hacked. Mobile apps we talked about. Let's see. We looked at some trends already. We talked about that. Oh, actually, let me show you one other thing real quick. This is very interesting. There's this this organization is called the Privacy Rights Clearinghouse, and they monitor data breaches on not a real-time basis, but pretty close. So June 5th, Dr. Kadri in Beverly Hills had 15,000 records breached. Let's see. So they got, looks like, information about the clients, possibly their credit card numbers and financial information. So that was significant. Let's see. Oh, wait, hang on. Okay. Okay, Grapevine, Texas. GameStop. Security incident that involved credit card payment information. Okay, another pretty standard one. Let's see. June 1st, one login in San Francisco. I don't know what a BSO is. So people were able to breach their login information. So it sounds like potentially that might have given hackers access into the company network, which could be really bad. I'll just do one or two more. I'm just trying to show you, here's, the diversity of the attack. So here, a high school in North Carolina. Let's see. Okay, so this was actually a physical data breach where somebody went in and pulled out student records and they were strewn all over the place. Okay, oh, look at this. Oh, no, that's Georgia, not Maine. Okay, Augusta University and Augusta Medical Center. Okay, a phishing attack hit faculty email accounts containing the health information of patients, which is not good. Okay, last one. Arizona Department of Health Services, medical organization, 2,500 data records breached. Individual and families with newborns containing sensitive health, financial, and personal information. Oh, well, that's a physical breach. Yeah. Let me just do one more then, just to see if there's something different. Florida Department of Agriculture. So a government organization being hacked. Names of thousands of concealed carry permit holders and floors have been leaked. Okay. So, also exposing social security numbers and concealed weapon licenses. So I just wanted to show you kind of, everybody gets hacked. And I'm going to go back to the slides in just a second, but while we're here, let me just show you this real quick. Because one of the things that all organizations should do is to develop policies and a security planning guide. And so this table of contents kind of gives you an idea of the scope of what's involved with this. So, educate your employees about scams and frauds, network security, website security, email security, mobile device security, employee training, physical security of the facility, operational security, securing payment cards. How do you deal with an incident? What's the chain of command? What happens if it's been breached? Who do you report to? What do you do? The policies, and so on. So anyway, that's just a resource. And so let me go back here. Okay, so one thing is, in the very first video, I think it was, the gentleman was talking about trust and authentication. And so to protect your assets, to protect your data, you need to make sure that you encrypt data to make sure that people cannot just freely access it on the web. And you also need to protect it with data authentication, meaning that only authorized people can access that data. Okay, I should just showed you this one, and there's actually I should probably show you this one as well. So, okay. Keep operating systems update, antivirus update. These are things that everybody knows, but a lot of times people don't do it. Strong password policy, screen locks. If somebody walks away from their desk, somebody can't just come in and just get in there real quick. Equipment tracking. So limit access to firm resources, use inventory tags. Okay, so monitoring secure devices. Make sure that both physically and digitally secured systems, disposal of systems. So if somebody's computer gets old, make sure the hard drive gets crushed, encrypt all data. Okay, make sure that only people allowed to access information are allowed to do so. Secure data transmission, and so on and so forth. So again, just kind of an interesting resource that you can use. Okay. So we talked about policies. What kind of policy should you have? Well, let's see. Sorry, that's not the one. You should have policies about internet usage, mobile usage, email usage, passwords, policies about pretty much everything. This is a reiteration of those government websites we were just looking at. To ensure security, make sure that only authorized people have access to data, make sure that everything is encrypted, make sure that you can authenticate that the data was not hacked in transmission. Okay, so here it is again. Who has access to the site, who's allowed to log on, who's permitted to view it, who's allowed to change data, and who's allowed to monitor it and change it. Okay, let's see. All right, so let's see here. All right, some of the major things to watch out for are viruses, worms, and so on, and that has to do with in making sure that you've got good software on your systems and that you install patches, because the hackers are always trying to change it. And it's like that whack-a-mole game when you were a kid. You make a change and the hackers find out another way to do it. So this is a never-ending vigilance to make sure that you're always updating your systems. And that actually is the cause of a lot of hackers getting in. Digital certificates and secure sockets, layers, and encryption are another way to ensure the security of your data. And let me just show you, this is what a digital certificate looks like, and I'll put this into context in a second. But the way I like to explain a digital certificate, it's like if any of you have passports, this is kind of the digital equivalent of a passport. It gives the owner's name, the serial number issued to them, who did it, there's certification authorities that are validated, the period that it's valid, and so on. And so just how when you went to a passport, you had to go to the post office, you had to prove that you are who you say you are, and you had to provide a lot of information, and then they issued you a passport. Well, with digital certificates, businesses that are accepting your data have to show that they can keep it secure, and they have to provide that validation to these certification authorities before they're issued a certificate that proves that they are a secure facility. And so that's really important. Let's see here. Okay, we talked about mobile devices, Internet of Things. This is all vulnerability points that you as an organization need to be aware of. And so we talked about denial of service attacks, worms. Let's see here. I'm trying to get to digital certificates and encryption. Let me get to this. No. This. Okay. So how many businesses encrypt and secure their data in transmission over the web is that they have software. So let's say this is you, and you're about to purchase something from Amazon. So you hit the enter the shopping cart, and when you do that, your computer has encryption algorithms, and it sends a request to Amazon's server. Amazon server then sends the digital certificate we talked about that contains something called a public key. Think about locking and unlocking a door, and the analogy is locking data. So Amazon will send your computer software, the certificate, and this encryption key, and then all the data that you're sending, your name, your address, your credit card information, anything else, gets encrypted with this public key that Amazon just sent to you. So then you once that data is encrypted, it's sent in an encrypted form to Amazon, and then Amazon has a key to unlock that data, and then there's another series of keys where you can send that encrypted data between you and Amazon in order to ensure the integrity of your data. So that's how SSL works, and it works with a combination of those digital certificates and these encryption keys that encrypt and decrypt the data. Okay, let's see. Of course, passwords is a big deal. I know it drives everybody crazy when they say you have to have at least 8 characters and 1 capital letter and a couple of different symbols like question marks and other things, but it does make it harder for cyber criminals to get in. So surprisingly, apparently, many people still use this as their password. I don't know why this one is so common, but password, a lot of people use password as their password, and this just shows increasing complexity. And so if you're a hardcore cyber person, you're going to have one of these. But anyway, that it is important to use robust passwords. And then the other thing is that not just passwords, but you remember in that video from the last one in payment systems where they talked about using biometrics as passwords. So that's also very commonly used, whether it's a thumbprint, an iris scan, facial recognition. It's getting very sophisticated. So many businesses, especially if you're in a high risk or classified kind of business, let's say you're working for the government, creating top secret weapons, that sort of thing. To get into the facility and to get into the data, usually you have to have a password, you have to have some sort of biometric screening, and oftentimes something called a token, which is issued to you as a one-time device that you use in combination with the others to get access, and then that one-time token disappears. Actually, credit cards are using this a lot too, these tokens. So let's say you're making a credit card purchase, you'll receive something like a text message with this token to validate that you are who you say you are. You use that for your, let's say, your mobile purchase, and then so you don't have to give your credit card number, so you don't put that at risk. These are, one-time encrypted codes that validate your purchase instead of putting your credit card number. So that token system is also getting to be pretty common. Okay, let's see. You also need to have things to protect your data, like firewalls. Oh, here's something about biometrics. Let's just take a quick look at this.
If you've done this, you're already part of a revolution in mobile technology. Biometrics, the science of measuring features or functions of the human body to establish your identity. Passwords, pins, usernames, infuriatingly hard to remember and downright dangerous. That's why innovative startups are popping up around the world, solving the security problem with biometrics.
We actually use the vein patterns in your eye.
iVerify discovered that the blood vessels in the whites of your eyes are as unique as the whorls on the tips of your fingers.
So the iris, many people know the iris, they expect that to be a good biometric, and it is, but it actually takes infrared light and an infrared camera, which phones don't have. We use just an ordinary phone.
Enter my name. Gosh, this is fast. Done.
iVerify caught the attention of Samsung, Sprint, and Wells Fargo. They all invested. Now the Kansas City-based company is using that backing to crack two markets where security is paramount.
Number one is enterprises. Big companies want to protect access to their networks. There's a breach like every day. The second one is, broadly mobile banking or mobile financial services.
According to one forecast, by 2019, 5.5 billion people will use biometric authentication on mobile and wearable devices. MasterCard has been experimenting with biometrics too, and recently tested an app using voice and facial recognition for 14,000 e-commerce transactions. MasterCard also invested in Bionim. This Toronto-based startup has developed a wristband, the $79 NIMI, that harnesses what may be the most secure biometric of all, your heartbeat.
If you look at all of the little peaks and valleys in the shape of that waveform, that's unique to you. We've now tied this to you. It's in an active state because it knows it's still on your wrist.
Right.
And now we can have it do stuff. For example, we can have it unlock a phone.
That's the beauty of persistent identity. Imagine how seamless life would be if logging onto your email, unlocking your car, or checking into a flight were as easy as strapping on a wristband and verifying your ECG. The device does the rest.
Is Bionim to kill the password? I don't know if we use that word too much, but probably yes.
Pretty cool, huh? It's amazing what people are doing. Okay, let me show you this one too, because you have to protect your servers, because that's where you're holding your sensitive data.
Would you be comfortable living in a house that someone else had the key to? What if an underground tunnel led into it from a public park, where its windows could never quite close all the way? Would you trust it with your safety and your privacy? The internet is that house. This is not to say never go into the house, but rather you should know the hazards before you store all of your valuables there, and do what you can to protect them. So why is it insecure, and why can't we just fortify it until it's safe? Well, first of all, the internet was not originally built to be what it is today. It's like someone decided to expand a shoebox into a skyscraper. The internet originally developed when computers were huge and so expensive to own that only universities, big businesses, and a few governments had them. The point, originally, was to let these massive supercomputers talk to each other. And as soon as two computers could send information back and forth, we had a network. The network gradually grew until personal computers emerged in the 1980s, and then it exploded. Soon, people were not just talking to each other, but also exchanging money, playing games, reading news, shopping, and doing everything we associate with the internet today. Other devices started talking to the network too. Phones and cars and refrigerators and elevators and power plants and much, much more. But the ease of all those devices talking to each other came at a price: security. One computer could send another instructions to delete everything on it or take it over. We call these viruses and malware. Or one person could steal another's identity by guessing, cracking, or extracting a password. Vulnerabilities such as these will never completely go away because they're built into the internet's very architecture. Criminals use them to steal billions of dollars, governments use them for surveillance, and hacktivists use them to further their political goals. Between 2004 and 2013, over 1 billion records of personal information were stolen or leaked through data breaches of major organizations. As a thought experiment, let's imagine what a perfectly secure internet might look like. Users would not be allowed to download or install anything onto their computers. All internet traffic would be monitored and regulated by bots and humans, massively limiting the number of websites you could visit. In order to log on to a website, you'd have to type in a 100-character password, submit a genetic sample, and whistle a tune. The servers that hold data would be kept in heavily armed fortresses on the moon. And even with all these safeguards in place, some clever hacker would almost certainly still find a way in. The good news is, even with our flawed internet, there are simple things you can do to protect yourself. And there are a lot of people committed to making the internet more secure. In Nova's cybersecurity lab, you'll play as one of these people, protecting a company that's the target of increasingly sophisticated cyber attacks. You must
Okay, so that was just kind of a nice analogy. Let me go back to, oh, actually this is, I should show you this one also. This is a good one about security at Google.
Google builds and maintains one of the world's foremost networks of data centers. Their design and engineering approaches have created a large and highly scalable data center network. Over the next few minutes, we're going to get an exclusive inside look at how Google works to secure and protect the data that is stored in their data centers. Inside of a Google data center, there are thousands upon thousands of machines carrying out the business of Google and its customers. The machines are custom built by Google to their own specifications. Google builds thousands of servers every year, but all of them are built exclusively to run in these data centers. Only the necessary operating system services and hardware are installed. This helps provide a computing environment that is much less prone to vulnerabilities. Access to Google data centers is tightly controlled. It's in Google's policy not to allow public tours or site visits. Security personnel are on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Google data centers are watched by a comprehensive set of video monitoring cameras. Once granted access to the facility, authorized personnel must check in at a reception area. Google takes great measures to protect its customers' data, and the security and protection of that data is paramount. Google's customer data is stored in multiple locations to help ensure reliability. The files that store the data are given random file names and are not stored in clear text, so they're not humanly readable. For each hard drive that is received in one of our data centers, Google rigorously tracks its location and status. When a hard drive fails or begins to exhibit performance problems, it's brought to this area, where it's reformatted and retested. If the hard drive does not pass these tests, it's removed from the rotation. The data on the hard drive is then overwritten to help ensure that no customer data remains on it. The data override is then verified with a complete disk read. This process helps ensure that there's no trace of customer data remaining on the hard drive. For hard drives that have reached the end of their life, Google has a destruction process that is designed to further ensure that none of the data on that drive can ever be accessed. The drives are destroyed in a multi-step process. One device that is used to destroy old hard drives is known as the crusher and is shown here. A steel piston is pushed through the center of the drive and the platters are deformed, making them unreadable. Another step in the process is the drive shredder, shown here. As you can see, no one will be likely to get any of Google's customers' data from these drives. After the crushing process, the remains are sent to recycling centers. Google maintains an extra backup of the data in the data center that is stored on these tapes, shown here. This provides a level of redundancy to help safeguard its customers' data. Google data centers are connected to the internet via high-speed fiber optic cable. In each data center, there are multiple redundant connections to protect against the possibility of a failure from a single connection. In addition to operating data centers designed for security and data protection, Google data centers are designed for sustainability and energy efficiency. This is central to Google's commitment to being a carbon neutral company. In 2009, Google announced that its data centers currently met energy efficiency levels that the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency projected only the most state-of-the-art data centers would possibly meet by the year 2011.
Okay. All right. So that was kind of a nice overview also. The only other things that I did not mention to you were one, firewall. So having a firewall is both hardware and software that is in front of your different servers so that it monitors all packets going in and out. There are rules where it looks for certain IP addresses, it looks for certain codes to identify viruses and things that are not authorized. And basically, sometimes you've got firewalls in front of firewalls. Sometimes companies have something called a DMZ, a demilitarized zone, where it acts as a buffer for anything coming into the corporate intranet. Let's see. Here's a little video on firewalls.
The name firewall already indicates what it does. Large buildings are divided into individual fire compartments by firewalls and fire protection doors. In case of a fire in a building, the fire can only propagate to this firewall, where it hits a barrier and cannot spread any further. The firewall for the protection of an automation cell does exactly the same thing. When an undesired Ethernet package reaches the security integrated component at the entrance of the automation cell, the latter will deny entrance to the Ethernet package. If an identifiable package intended for a node of the automation cell reaches the security integrated component, it will let the package pass. The package reaches the node and can be processed there. The following features of an Ethernet package will be checked by the firewall: source and destination IP address and the service or port number. These features can be configured and fine-tuned in the security integrated component.
There are actually a lot more rules than that, but it kind of just gives you a visual of what that means. Okay, let's see here. The last thing that I just want to mention to you before we close out is the idea of backup and recovery. Because like with ransomware, if you had real-time backup systems, if your primary system was taken hostage by ransomware hackers, it wouldn't matter because you would have the exact identical copy somewhere else and you could resume operations. So, and in case of hackers or even natural disasters, every organization should back up their data. I mean, ideally in real time, and not only the data, but the software systems that run them, because you could have databases full of data, but if you don't have the software to do something with them, then you're still dead in the water. And they also recommend that you have your backup systems offsite in secure locations, because the very sad example of this was that I think it was Goldman Sachs maybe, they had great backups. They were in the World Trade Center, they were like in the North Tower, and their backup systems were in the South Tower, and of course we all know what happened. So you definitely want to have something somewhere else in the country. The government with their extremely highly classified data, they store stuff like deep in under mountains and stuff like that. And also a recovery plan. So if something happens, are you just going to freeze and say, oh, what do we do? Who do we call? Or do you have a plan on who's in charge, what you do, how do you get to your backup systems, how do you resume operations? So that's the last thing to consider in terms of security. And as always, I look forward to seeing your articles and your discussions in the forum. Thank you.